request if you can first, give instructions to your Spanish audience to turn on the interpretation tab, and they can select their language to Spanish from the bottom of the Zoom screen. First, you can say this instruction from your end, and then we can start with this session.
Okay, thank you, Surabi. Buenas tardes a todos los compañeros que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Mucho gusto estar aquí con ustedes. Les comentamos que tenemos interpretación al español activa. Por favor, si es que pueden dirigirse a la parte de abajo de Zoom, van a encontrar una opción que dice interpretación y dando clic ahí van a encontrar la interpretación al español. Por favor, para que puedan escuchar en su idioma esta sesión. Igualmente, equally for our colleagues, when we are Latin American speaking in Spanish, please press the interpretation because it's going to be the translation to English also.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jessica.
Thank you, Surabi.
And we are joined by Patricia and Flavia in the Spanish booth today. They both are our interpreters for this session. So welcome everyone to the Accelerator Session on Harmonizing Energy Transition with Ecosystem Preservation, organized by International Council for Circular Economy, ICCE, in collaboration with Interamerican Association of Environmental Defense, AIDA, under the aegis of World Circular Economy Forum 2025 by Sitra, which is being held in Brazil this year. The last 2 days had seen a big turnout of events in the largest city of Brazil, Sao Paulo, and today and tomorrow are the days for the online sessions. So we have people joining us from across the globe, from different regions of mainly the global South and Europe, I believe. I would request everyone to please write their city and country name in the chat box so that we all know from what regions we are connecting. So please, can I see everybody's city and country in the chat box? Please write there in the chat box. Yes. India is hosting the WCEF next year. Thanks a lot for that. So that's a good news. So somebody is from Geneva. Dr. Atik is from Geneva. Glenn is joining from Costa Rica. Then we have Ben is joining from New York, Brazil. India, Noida, Abrar is joining, and Chris from Durban, South Africa, Livis from Brooklyn, New York, Uni from Indonesia, Ricardo, Chile, Sharon from Kenya, that's great, Pooja from Noida, India, that's great, wonderful, thank you all of you. So we have people joining from USA, from Africa, from Asia. So all the continents are there, I think, in presence today. So that's wonderful. Now we'll be moving ahead. So before we move ahead, I would like to introduce ICCE to all our participants, as many of you would not be aware of our roles and functions and what ICCE is actually. So the International Council for Circular Economy, ICCE, is India's premier think tank dedicated to advancing the principles of the circular economy. Our work spans across India and the globe, where we engage with policymakers, businesses, and thought leaders to develop strategies that promote resource efficiency, waste reduction, and sustainable economic models. Through research, advocacy, and capacity building initiatives, ICCE plays a pivotal role in shaping policies, creating awareness, building knowledge, and enabling industries to adopt circular practices. We are a member of multiple international consortiums, including Ellen MacArthur Community, Climate and Clean Air Coalition, CCAC, ISO standards, and global partnership on plastic pollution and marine litter. I would request my colleague Princey to please share the agenda of today's session in the chat box for all of you to see. And I would request everyone to keep their mics off. And if there is anything to share or you have some queries, you can use the chat box, write your queries in the chat box, and we'll try to take them up and include them in our discussion as much as possible. So everyone, we are holding this session in collaboration with AIDA, which is the Interamerican Association of Environmental Defense. It was founded in 1998. AIDA uses the law to protect the environment and communities suffering from environmental harm throughout Latin America. AIDA works in the context of climate change, freshwater protection, marine protection, and human rights and the environment, using diverse strategies to protect the right to a healthy environment in the hemisphere. We are happy to join hands with AIDA and look forward to keep working in the future as well. Without any further ado, now I invite our founder and managing director of ICCE, Ms. Shalini Goel Bhalla, to share her words of wisdom. Ms. Bhalla is a leading global expert in the field of circular economy and sustainability. She authored India's first book on circular economy and got the concept of circular economy embedded in formal education in India. Her recent paper was published by the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister and the G20 Compendium. She's a well-known face from India whenever the circular economy is talked about. Mrs. Bhalla, please, over to you.
Thank you, Surbhi. Thanks a lot. I would like to wish good morning, good afternoon, and evening to people who are joining us from across the globe today. I would also like to thank the partners, the speakers who have taken out time, and I totally understand that a lot of you are joining from across the timelines today. And some people had to kind of check in fast, some people had to miss another event for this event, and we totally appreciate you being here today. I'm honored to welcome you to this very important accelerator session at the World Circular Economy Forum WCEF 2026 on harmonizing energy transition with ecosystem preservation. At the Council, as Surbhi has already mentioned, our mission has always been to foster inclusive, regenerative approach, one that balances the progress with preservation and growth with responsibility. Today's session is going to embody the very principle. As global discussions are increasingly centered around decarbonization and the transition to renewable energy, we are noticing a critical gap. The voices of the ecosystem and the local communities, particularly in the global south, are often not considered. We are making decisions that are global in nature, but the consequences are often very local and unequally distributed. Historically, if we look at the exploitation in the global south, the countries have disproportionately benefited the multinational corporations, which have largely gained from abundant resources and less stringent labor and environmental regulations, thereby reducing production cost, but maximizing the profits. In countries where environmental, social, and economic regulations are more flexible, the profitability of large international corporations is amplified, often at the cost of local communities and ecosystems. This imbalance becomes even more pronounced when we consider that despite being essential to the energy transition, renewable technologies are intrinsically resource intensive. A scientific model, which was developed in 2019, has projected that the energy transition could lead to an increase in the mineral flows of around 200% to 900% in the electricity sector and 350 to 700% in the transportation sector between 2015 and 2050. This all depends on how we aim at the International Energy Agency's target. This rising demand for raw material has triggered a global rush of minerals, many of which are today classified as critical materials. If we look and read according to ARENA, critical minerals, those essential for the energy transition technologies, are often produced in a limited number of countries, are subjected to significant extraction challenges, and they are experiencing a decline in the quality as well. These dynamics not only heighten the geopolitical and environmental risk, but also place a tremendous burden on already vulnerable regions and populations. This is why ICCE felt it was essential to bring this topic to a global platform like World Circular Economy Forum. And I'm totally grateful to WCEF, to Sitra, and our partners in recognizing and appreciating the urgency and relevance of this conversation and making it part of the Accelerator sessions today. We are highly thankful to our collaborators, AIDA. Together, we worked on upcoming report, which is titled Structural Challenges and Local Realities in Mining Regions of the Global South, about which Jessica, our partner from AIDA, will be speaking in a short while. This report reveals how the current energy transition model, while green in aspiration, can be extractive in practice, especially when it involves large scale of mining operations in the ecologically sensitive and socially fragile areas. It highlights how displacement, water, contamination, biodiversity loss, and even the human rights violations continue to undermine the very goals of sustainability. The report, which we will be releasing in the coming days, urges all of us to look beyond technological fixes and to address the structural inequalities embedding in our transition pathways. The session today is an opportunity for all of us, the policymakers, the practitioners, researchers, and advocates, to explore how can we build a circular and just energy transition. A transition that not only addresses carbon emissions, but also centers biodiversity, community rights, and environmental justice. Let us ensure that the solution we champion are inclusive, responsible, and regenerative, and that the transition we are advocating does not replicate the same systems of extraction and inequality, but we are trying to leave behind a more equitable and a sustainable world. I would once again like to thank WCEF, Sitra, our partners, and our speakers today from across the world for joining us. I really look forward to have you all in India next year, as 2026 is India hosting the World Circular Economy Forum. Let's begin this important and timely conversation now. Over to you, Subhi.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Shalini, for setting the context and giving us a brief of what to expect from this session and why this discussion is so important. So, and the good news definitely is that India is hosting WCEF next year in our home country. We are getting this opportunity next year. So that's a great news, I think. Now let me move to our next speaker. She is the project coordinator in the Ecosystems program at AIDA, Mrs. Stefanie Wies-Muller. She has over 12 years of experience in programs, initiatives, and projects related to climate change and sustainability in Latin America. She's been working with NGOs, public administration, and development cooperation. She's a researcher who explores urban-rural dynamics, foodscapes, and their intersection with socio-environmental inequalities and ecosystem balances. Stefanie, over to you.
Thank you, Surabhi. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Shalini, for centering us on the urgency of the topics that we're going to address today. I'm going to take just a few minutes to say hi to everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. It is an honor to welcome you to this online session. We've been organizing this for a few months now, and we're really excited that it's happening within the framework of the World Circular Economy Forum, where we will discuss the global energy transition, but from the perspective of the South and its impacts on vulnerable territories and ecosystems. We are especially grateful to the International Council for the Circular Economy for co-organizing this dialogue, for all our key allies in advancing this debate, which again we think is more than important, is very urgent, linking environmental justice with circular economy. And so thank you, Surabhi, Princy, Shalini, and all of your team. Today we will address a critical paradox, as Shalini was already inviting us to reflect on, which is the essential minerals for this clean energy transition, such as lithium, which are extracted in regions with high biodiversity, water scarcity, and vulnerable communities. So how can we prevent this transition from repeating patterns of environmental injustice that we have seen in the region? I think that's one of the most important questions of our time to answer. We are currently witnessing strong tensions, which are often hidden of the current debate between the competitiveness and economic agenda and the environmental and human rights agendas. AIDA, which has been defending environmental rights in Latin America for over 25 years, we look to legally support communities and demand standards that prioritize the protection of ecosystems and human rights. But sadly, when we look at this energy transition model, we have been seeing how extractive projects have been imposed without free and informed consent, without cumulative and comprehensive impact assessment, and without effectively implementing the precautionary principle in itself. In several cases, due diligence obligations are being ignored or even eliminated. We believe that in that context, that in this session, important elements will be provided for discussion, for analysis, and for reflection towards an energy transition that is understood as just from the perspective of the Global South. We thank the panelists for the interest and, of course, the time that you took in preparing yourselves and all the data that you're going to share with us today. And we thank everyone that is joining us online, and we look forward for an interesting discussion. Without further ado, let's get this started. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Stefani. So definitely these challenges that you just mentioned, they are being felt across the Global South, and that's why this discussion becomes so important. Now I want to welcome and thank Mr. Mohammad Rehan, the Director General of the National Institute of Solar Energy, NISE, for being here with us today. Mr. Rehan has been a professor of electrical engineering at Aligarh Muslim University for 22 years and is the founding director of Center for Green and Renewable Energy at the university. He has been guiding PhD scholars in the areas of a smart grid, solar energy, and synchrophorus measurement. Authoring books on green energy, he also led the integration of solar PV plants in the university campus distribution grid, the largest such installation in any academic institution in the country. So thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for being here today. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Surabhi. And first of all, my greetings to all of you. And I understand we are in different time zones, so accordingly, best of morning, afternoon, evening to every one of you. I'm really happy to join this session actually. Why? Because the topic is such an important topic, harmonizing energy transition with ecosystem preservation. And on my behalf, I appreciate and congratulate ICCE, the leadership involved, and AIDA, both the organizations, for organizing such an important discussion. So I'll put forward 2-3 important points for your consideration or discussion. So when we say energy transition, it is almost synonymous with electrical energy transition, because we all understand and agree that electrical energy is the most critical form of energy now. And if I say this is the oxygen of this new society, and then that won't be an exaggeration. But we all know that the conventional way of meeting this requirement has been a challenge for the environment. So we are transitioning to green and renewable energy sources. And this whole energy transition is primarily for protecting the environment. So naturally, if this transition is bringing its own challenges with respect to environment, we need to address those challenges on priority. So one method is shifting our generation from coal to solar energy, say, or wind energy or hydro energy, which different countries are doing as per their local conditions. But I would start with the first basic requirement. Actually, we need to address how to reduce the requirement itself. So that leads me to that. I believe that if I draw a pyramid of decarbonization, then the base is the conservation part. Can we minimize the usage of electricity? Can we eliminate the wastage of electricity? That is the most important part, and that is why in IEA, International Energy Agency, says the best form of clean energy is that energy which is saved actually. So we need to work on this. I think this is a very important aspect, that I need to avoid the wastage, even if I can financially afford it. Then comes the second layer, that is energy efficiency. We need to increase the efficiency. Whatever way we are using energy, it has to be in an efficient. And then the top layer is the shift to green energy. So, for example, we are transitioning to a primarily solar-based system. And this transition has been rapid, and I would say that, as if I talk about the national development, that our journey has been a successful journey. We have come from around 10 megawatt of solar energy in 2011 to 107,000 megawatt of solar energy right now. So this is a very important shift in terms of preventing damage to environment. But its own challenges are there with respect to environment. One has been identified by my previous speakers, that the material that is being used, that has to be, we have to ensure that it is minimized, the impact is minimum. So that is why we are working on reuse and recycling of the material. For example, solar panels. How to ensure its reuse, how to ensure their proper recycling. This is a very important area of concern for all the countries who are going for solar, for us also, and as an institute also, this is a priority area for us. One more thing I would like to highlight, that in case of solar power plants, mostly the performance measurement is in terms of how much energy it is being generated. So there are parameters for that. Those who are from energy background, they may be aware of that. But now a different aspect is being explored. Many countries who are working on solar, 3-4 countries are working on this also. That is developing solar power plant rating framework. So that rating will involve not only the generation of energy part, but starting from the plant, how it has been planned, what is the environmental impact of that plant, how much will it be its life, how it will end its life, and at the end of its life, how it will be recycled. The components used in that will be recycled, and it is ensured that it is in the best possible manner. So we are also working on this, and I think this is a very important concept to see in totality, apart from energy part, how the plant is there any adverse effect to environment, how that can be minimized. So these are the questions related to shift to solar is important for environment protection, but making it more effective, or addressing the climate challenges which this transition is bringing, is also important. So all all different institutes are working in this area. For us also, this is an important area. And I'm sure this discussion which you are having today will also address some other important areas also. So with this, I once again appreciate the idea behind this this session, and I thank you for making me a part of this discussion, and I look forward to some important outcome from this. Thank you very much.
Sure, sir. Thanks a lot. Definitely, we see that India and all other countries are moving towards clean energy. So with clean energy, the challenges are coming. So with this, we are moving to our next speaker now. And I'm happy to share that, as Shalini has already shared, that we are working with AIDA on a report, which is on the structural challenges and local realities in mining regions of the Global South. And we'll be releasing it soon, sometime later. So our next speaker who's coming is Jessica Soleranos Orellana. She is the economics specialist in the ecosystems program at AIDA, and she'll be sharing some details of this collaborative work now. Jessica has a rich experience in extractivism, rural economies, and socio-environmental conflicts. She has worked with non-governmental organizations, local government, peasants, and indigenous communities. So Jessica, over to you.
Thank you very much, Surabhi, for the presentation, and good morning, good afternoon, all you here sharing with us as previous intervention, accurately explained to us. We are a reality and a context that require from us a more profound analysis and discussion about how we can make the energy transition and the circular economy transition a process with justice that brings real benefit to everyone and make it possible to cut or to cut the practices that bring us to the climate crisis and the inequality crisis that we are facing today. The title of our report that I am going to be commenting with you today is The Global Shift Toward a Circular Economy, Structural Challenges and Local Realities in Mining Regions of the Global South. With this report, we want to bring to the discussion a necessary territorial point of view. When we think about circular economy, global energy transition, the scale that we are talking about is interregional, is global. But we think, and as Shalini had mentioned very well, that a lot of the impacts, a lot of the processes occurs in the territory, and we need to consider and to shift our point of view to these territories to make it in a justice way. As an introduction, I would like to analyze with you that historically, economy and energy transitions have generated inequality. The use of nature always is related with the power relationships. So if our goal is to have a transition with justice, we need to work together to ensure we think that it's important that the economic model protects the environment, does not affect the economy in a negative way, displays the workers and people from their territories and their practices. Yes?
The voice is breaking again. Can you please check maybe? The voice
I'm
was
sorry?
not clear.
Sorry.
Your voice was not clear. It was breaking again and again. The signals, is it with everyone or?
Oh, I'm so
think-
sorry. Everyone has having a problem with my audio. Maybe you can
Yes.
signal in the chat, please.
Yes,
Oh,
it
I'm
was
so
not clear,
sorry.
but
I am
now
listening.
it's getting better. Sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's breaking. Now it's
Oh,
better.
so sorry. I don't
Okay.
know. Sorry. I don't know how it's better. I am going to
Maybe you can turn off
continue.
your camera, maybe. Maybe you can turn off your camera and then
Okay, I
just
am going
speak
to.
and share the presentation.
Awesome. I am going to stop
Yeah.
my video. Perfect. Please, thank you, Surabi, and please signal to me if the problem still is going. I was talking about the introduction that the use of nature always is related with power relationships. So the transition to a circular economy together with an energy transition has to ensure to break this historic pattern. How we can make it, how to break this historic pattern is through the protection of the environment, protecting the local economies for avoid displacement of people from their work, from their territory, and also, and really important, protect the human rights. Because most of the intensive activities or extractive activities historically have difficulties to ensure the protection of human rights. So how we can make the energy transition, what's the context of the energy transition and the circular economy? We need minerals for the energy transition to ensure that we go out of the really high in GHG emissions. So the projections suggest that without an improvement in the resource efficiency, the global material use could nearly double by 2060. So we are facing the increasing of the global material use, and we need the mechanisms to make in a way that we transition, but preserving our ecosystems. This is one of the most challenging questions, that if we can effectively use all of these materials without putting in danger our ecosystems and the people's life on the territories of extraction. In this context of an increasing demand of resources, we see the necessity of a new kind of economy. And this is when the circular economy appears as a possible road to be explored and to be developed in a way that include all the actors that is needed to. Because economy transition to a circular economy or energy transition is not just a technological process, but a justice process. And this justice process includes that the consultation and the dialogue between all the actors related in all the supply chain of minerals or materials in general. We want, with this alliance between ICCE and AIDA, bring a discussion and bring reflections about how the Global South can contribute with this debate with a justice perspective. In our proposal, we think that the Global South needs to address the complexity of three main difficulties to reach a circular economy in an equitable way. First is the limitation of the current circular economy perspective, which do not include the biodiversity protection and the biophysical limits of highly vulnerable ecosystems. We see that a lot of the discussions are related with industrial development, technological development, but biodiversity and ecosystems, it's being left behind. The second complexity or difficulty that needs to be addressed is the inequalities in technological, political, and social capacities to transition from a linear to a circular economy, because in the laws, in the normative, in the political context, the Global South still needs to develop more their legal tools to make a circular economy with justice. And the third difficulty that we identified is the imposition of a global agenda that deepens the material overconsumption of some regions and promotes an energy transition without taking into account the local economy trajectories. So when we talk about, for example, the lithium extraction needed to the energy transition, we see that all the local practices, the local economy practices that are being developed in this territory are really in danger, as Paulina after is going to deep in this question. What are our recommendations to these challenges and to this necessity for a circular economy that includes the needs and the preoccupations of the Global South? First, we aim to a recognition of the global dimension of circularity and its territorial expressions. Each region of the world has different roles, different approaches to the circular economy, and the regions of the Global South must actively participate in shaping a global circular economy that reflects its regional specificities. Also, we aim to the development of a specific circularity indicators for mining sector for mining zones or extractive places, because a lot of the indicators that today are bringing to the discussion is the increase of GDP or the job promotion, but we are leaving behind the monitoring biodiversity, monitoring the possibility of the people make his life or their lives in the territory. Also, we think that is needed a territorial planning beyond the scale of industrial mining concessions, and see the extractive territories as ecosystems, as basins that need to be monitored in a way that is possible to see the accumulative and synergistic impacts in the ecosystems. Finally, we recommend to integrate natural capital valuation into mining pricing, into mineral pricing or materials pricing. And finally, we recommend explore environmental taxation mechanisms that allows to evaluate better in the market the materials that are extracted from the ecosystems. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give the floor to Surabhi again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Jessica. And now we will be moving on to our panel discussion, where we will be discussing how we can balance the indigenous ecosystems in the global south with the rising energy demands globally. For the discussion, we have a panel of expert speakers joining us from various geographies of the world. Let me introduce you to all our speakers. Our speakers can turn on their cameras now. We have Dr. Dvipen Borua, co-founder and managing director of Global Sustainable Energy Solutions, GSES from India. He has over 33 years of experience in renewable energy planning, project management, consultancy, and training. Then I welcome Nilu Putuyiniari from Indonesia. Uni is a social entrepreneur specializing in circular climate solutions across the energy and marine sectors. And the third speaker is Dr. Glenn Hernandez from Costa Rica. He is a researcher specialized in quantitative sustainability assessments. Currently, he is leading the UNICA project, a global Marie Curie Fellowship at CML Leiden University and Academia de Centro America that explores the circularity transitions in Latin America and the Caribbean. We are also joined by Mr. Chris White, who is the director of Africa Circular, which is renamed recently from ASIN Foundation. Earlier it was ASIN Foundation, now it is known as Africa Circular. And he is the business development advisor for the African Circular Economy Network, ASIN. Chris has more than 30 years of experience in Africa developing a just transition to circularity across every sector and is acknowledged through 20 national and global awards. Then we have our next speaker from UAE, Mr. Mohammed Shamil. He is the settlement engineer at a leading water and electricity utility company, Taka Distribution. His core responsibilities involve validating and reconciling bulk water and electricity volumes at the interface points between transmission and distribution networks. And the session will be moderated by Dr. Atiq Zaman, who is joining us from Geneva currently. He is an associate professor specializing in circular economy and sustainability at Curtin University, Australia. He serves in various leadership roles, including as a member of the UN Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition. So now I hand over the stage to Dr. Atiq and all the panelists. So over to you, Dr. Atiq.
Thank you, Ms. Ruby. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks for this opportunity. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Wherever we are joining for this acceleration sessions of the World Circular Economy Forum. I think our previous speaker actually set the tone, like how challenging this topic is. So that's why I really feel privileged to moderate this session because it is important as well as challenging. But also we have expert in the panel to share their thoughts how to overcome those challenges. Before deep dive into discussions, I would like to share some housekeeping because that's my role as the moderator today and also the structure of today's proceedings. So first, I think we all are muted unless we are speaking, which is good, so I don't need to repeat that. But in terms of Q&A, if you have any questions specific to particular panel members or all, please put in the chat box and we will review those questions and I will come back to those questions end of our kind of panel discussion sessions and hopefully we'll address as many as possible. So in terms of the panel discussion, so I have separated two kind of part in the panels. First is like to understand the panelist critical insight, because as you can see that our panels came from a diverse background and from various parts of the world. So we'd really like to understand their ground reality, what is happening at this moment to overcome those challenges. and then the thematic discussion. So I think it's very nicely placed in the context. We talk about circular economy, energy infrastructures, resource management. We talk about how to balance between energy access and biodiversity hotspot, and also the policy interventions and to ensure just energy transitions. So due to the time constraint, I would really request our panelists to be mindful of the time while they're responding. I understand the topic is very interesting. At the same time, there are a lot to share because it brings a lot of complex scenarios in this context. So just before I start our panel, I would like to just summarize what we so far discussed in more kind of context format so that it is more relatable. As we move towards net zero ambitions, Global South stands at a pivotal crossroad. And according to Global Environment Outlook, more than 60% of the world territorial biodiversity is found in the Global South. Simultaneously, nearly 750 million people globally still lack access of electricity, and 85% of those live in sub-Saharan Africa and also South Asia. So these parallel realities demand solutions that do not force the trade-off between energy equity as well as ecological integrity. And we also seen or already discussed that energy transition itself is material intensive. And in the last 50 years, the resource extraction actually tripled and disproportionately impacting global ecosystem and also community, particularly in the Global South. And we have seen the global circularity rate, which has been announced in this World Circular Economy Forum, is only 6.9%. So most of our resources actually depleting. And the reason for that, the declining circularity rate, is due to increased resource extractions. So with these ground realities, so we need to be more, when we need more resource for renewable energy infrastructure, but at the same time, we need to preserve natural biodiversity. So I think this is a very good segue to unpack the dilemma that we are in and that we'd like to actually unpack through this panel discussion. So I would like to first start with the questions to Chris. And please, I think I will ask one questions every each of our panel. An expert, please be mindful of maybe 3-minute maximum time to respond these questions. So Chris, if you turn on your mic, and my question is like, in your experience developing circular economy initiatives in Africa, what are the key synergies and trade-offs between renewable energy infrastructures and ecosystem integrity? And how can circular approaches minimize those trade-offs? Chris, over to you.
Atik. Thank you, and apologies, I can't find a quiet spot in this hotel in between accelerators in Sao Paulo, so I hope you can hear me. Listen, I think that there's a number of different opportunities. We all understand the impacts with regards to renewable energy. We're dealing, for example, currently on some of the islands, the smaller developing island states, where there is no space for solar for a start, and there is no systems in terms of processing or recycling or rejuvenating any of those panels. But we need to start looking at the opportunities where we can address not just the transition into renewable energy, but understanding how we can look at opportunities where we can integrate agrivoltaics as a primary opportunity, looking at the opportunities in terms of wind power and how that can link in with agriculture and other opportunities. But essentially what we need to try and ensure is that even in terms of the generation of those materials, is that we start to look at more circular applications with regards to the extraction of those materials. And that can be done. There are different opportunities in terms of ensuring that mining houses look at particular offsets and also make sure that they are less impactful in terms of the environment. So there's a number of different options we can follow through. And the reality is that we need to try and keep people linked to those responsibilities. And that really is something we need to keep our finger on, make sure that we ensure that there is an offset in terms of understanding wind and solar is going to have an impact in terms of biodiversity. It's going to have an impact in terms of the space that's required. So we need to also look at that balance. We need to look at alternative energy systems, hydrostatic equilibrium systems, for example. There's a whole host of different ways we can try and integrate and minimize those components. But at the same time, we need to look at that end of life, and we need to look at design for recyclability, so that we are addressing not just the front end, but the back end of the system as well, and how we can integrate that in terms of creating opportunities across the value chain to ensure this is a just energy transition, and that we are incorporating and empowering SMEs throughout that sector. So I hope that answers the question briefly, but I hope you heard me okay with all the background noise.
Just perfectly fine, Chris, and thanks for actually echoing that we need to actually whole life cycle and whole of life system thinking kind of point here, so that we can not only the front end we will be addressing how to put like solar panels more, but also how actually we can responsibly take care of end of life solar panels as well, the back end options. Now, I think the next guest or expert that I would like to go with is like Mr. Dipen from India. So I think my question to Mr. Barua is like, what are the key enablers and barriers for ecosystem-sensitive, decentralized renewable energy solutions in India's energy transitions?
Mr. Dweepen, are you here?
You're on mute.
Yes, then. Okay, thank you. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this discussion. It's a good, I think, best time to talk about circular economy and also the sustainability, because we keep talking about renewables, but we sometimes forget about what the impact also renewable can have in the overall sustainability. As far as your question is concerned, let us directly come to that. So main enabler is basically on three front. One is, of course, the policy is one, which enables the market as well. And then market is the main thing, in my opinion, technology development and market in terms of particularly costing. The price of products are now gone quite affordable, and then people's economy has been lifted up. So this three triangle, I think, helps to grow renewable energy or decentralized energy in general. So that is the main enabler. And then people can afford today to buy solar lights or many other decentralized energy systems, unlike 20 years ago, when the solar was very expensive, I think about 20 times more than what today. So that is the main enabler, in my opinion. And when it comes to the barriers, I think, of course, there are many barriers. The growth is taking place, but I do not think that all growths are sustainable, actually is developing in a sustainable way. So one of the major reasons that from different studies and that work we do in practical life in the market, so that we realize that one of the major reason is quality of products as well as quality of work. So that shortens the life of the renewables when it comes to any off-grid system or grid connected solar, anything. So I think we see a big challenge, particularly in the Indian context or the developing countries context. Our quality management and the life of the projects are very short. And I just give you an example. Like recently, I've read an article which says that India has a potential of 100,000 tons of solar panel waste. Right. So then it translates into about 2 gigawatt. So that means that 2 gigawatt target India has achieved in 2013-14. That means it is just in 12 years. So we have so much of garbage. So that means expected solar life is about 25-30 years. So we are actually ending up maybe shortening the life of the solar panels in half of that. So that is actually increasing the waste, and then it is becoming a burden. So another plastic maybe. So similarly, so wind turbines. So you cannot degrade the wind turbine blades probably for 1,000 years. So this is such a material we develop that we cannot degrade them. So those are the major issues we need to definitely look into. So there are many organizations which are actually taking initiative in terms of this sustainability, and then we talk about end of life management, etc. But that is one of the major reason, I would say. So then other barriers are, of course, the policy gap is there. Though we have policy which is promoting, but we also still have some policy gaps which sometimes restricts or keep delayed investment or taking decision, etc. For example, mini grid projects. We have so many mini grids in India, thousands of mini grids. Now, when mini grid is completed, then it started functioning, then grid comes into. So we don't have a policy of grid integration of mini grid in most of these states. So then mini grid became abandoned. So, or it is not being used anymore. So those investment has gone. If somebody has invested privately, that is gone. So those are the barriers, but technical barriers are more, I think, more impactful, and also it directly impact on the investment. Because when somebody invests on a project, so then expecting a 25 years of life and return at the same time, and then actually you end up losing the system or degrading the system in just first 5 to 6 years. So then your whole investment has gone on a toss. So there are a lot of issues in these terms. And of course, that is a big question, of course. So one solution is basically through the skill development, which is we talk about a lot, but actually we do not work about mostly. No? We work sometimes to gain numbers. We just give training to gain some numbers. So we announce that we give training of this many, that many, but quality of training is not ever measured. So we do not know a person, it became a good designer, good installer, or a quality, because of the lack of skill or adequate knowledge, so we miss out the quality things. That is also another reason. So quality of products and quality of installation, quality of maintenance, even operational maintenance. So there are many issues. How much time I have? I think, is it okay? Or I keep
No, that's
talking?
fine. I think we can come back later with additional
Okay.
questions or
So
additional
that is,
explanation,
yeah.
because
So
I
that
think
aspect,
this gives
yeah,
us
that's true.
more the context. I think then we need to go a little bit more continuations from the context as well.
That's
Thanks a lot, Mr. Barua, because I think you really captures some of the really important things, like it's a kind of market driven, and also it related to affordability. Like when you talk about energy transition, is it affordable? Is the solution, particularly when any sort of sustainable solution, the critics is like it is costly, it's expensive. Whether it makes this affordable solution so that actually people can take it up, the solution that is offering. But at the same time, the quality, I think that's more related to circular economy solutions. Is like, is quality, are we ensuring the quality that is required for longer lasting the solution or future proof solutions? Unfortunately, in the energy sector, that might not be the case. But also in terms of the preparation that you have, the example that you have provided in Indian context, like 2 gigawatt only, all the solar panel that accumulated only represent 2 gigawatt, but India moved like 100,000 gigawatt. So in that case, like how we will be tackling that sort of challenges. So I think that sets really nice kind of informative scenario in India, how we would be responding that. From that, I would like to maybe go to Uni to actually understand more in Indonesian context, and if if you kindly relate some of those previous challenges that the panelist shared, is like actually is something that maybe you'd be applying in your Indonesian context. So my questions is like how, because AIDA impact is the most of the contributions that you are putting with AIDA impact. So my question related to that is, how is AIDA impact applying circular economy principles to carbon project as well as energy transition in Indonesia, and what lessons can be drawn from those projects from ecosystem preservations?
Thank you, Dr. Aktif. And hello, everyone, and warm greetings from Indonesia. It is an honor to join this panel and to share the experiences that I have done so far, and to also share how circular strategies rooted in both technology and community can help accelerate just and low emission transition in the global south. So just to have a better understanding about the work that we've done around AIDA. So AIDA is a climate solution company working at the intersection of circular economy, sustainability, and energy transition. So we have been building a circular models around on the refrigerants management. It is about a managing the refrigerants emission from cooling industry or cooling sectors. And we have built a system where we can enable our partners and the community to recover and reclaim the used refrigerants safely, and then retrofitting to existing cooling system to shift toward low emission alternative, which in our experience is actually bringing the community into a more energy efficiency when we are shifting to a low emission alternatives. And it can also be linked the actions to the carbon markets, which turning what was once invisible pollution into a climate assets. So this approach transforms a waste stream into a measurable mitigation pathway. And we are also building technician capacity and supporting green jobs. And on the other side, we are also building an integrating nature-based circularity through marine system. We work with our sister initiative called SIWA, which focuses on blue carbon through seaweed cultivations. Why we are focusing in seaweed? Because seaweed doesn't require land, fertilizer, or fresh water, and it has immense potential for carbon sequestration, ecosystem regenerations, especially in degraded marine zones. And we are also experimenting with seaweed as a source for clean energy inputs, actually. So when seaweed biomass is transformed into fuel or biogas. And what makes this circular is that every byproduct of the seaweed that we are cultivating, including the wastewater, the residue, even the processing energy, can be reintegrated into the system. So from becoming fertilizer, renewable feedstock, it creating a closed loop zero waste models that aligns energy production with ecosystem health. So that's what we are basically are doing at both AIDA and SIWA. So we are integrating not only the clean energy locally sourced, but we are also enabling the community to be able to contributing into the circular economy or circular models that we have been building.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Yuni. I think you bring really interesting discussions, and I think it somewhat means that is like bioeconomy, how actually you can make bioeconomy or biomass or biosector is more circular, because we take it as granted is like the bioeconomy is also circular, which is not. So how can actually make the bioeconomy more circular? I think that's really interesting. And the seaweed example, and how can we actually use seaweed as a source of biogas or energy, that also interesting. Nature-based solutions like mitigating emissions or low emission solutions is also another interesting aspect that you can bring. So hopefully we can learn from the impactful work that you do, and then you can maybe apply some other places as part of the technology transfer and so on and so forth. So now let's let's move to maybe Middle East to see what is happening and how we can learn from their context. So now I would really request now to Mr. Shamil, given your energy infrastructure background, so how can smart metering and data analytics and circular strategy be integrated into energy distributions network to enhance the sustainability and reduce ecological impact? Are there any examples?
Yeah. Firstly, my greetings to all panelists and everybody who's listening in the webinar. And I want to give my gratitude to Surabhi for inviting me for such an important discussion. And thank you, Dr. Atiq, for moderating the event and quite an interesting question. Since Taka is a utility company which delivers water, potable, recycled water, and electricity. So with regards to your question, smart metering. Smart metering plays a vital part in this energy transition. When we talk about smart metering, it deals with real-time data. Real-time data where you can identify the performance of the network, the consumption trend of the customers. Using all these data, you can mitigate the losses. And with regards to since we are talking about the circular economy, I want to just bring into the point of treated water, wastewater, which is treated in Abu Dhabi. 95% of water is treated in Abu Dhabi. And when this treated water is used for agriculture, irrigation of landscape, industries, district cooling plants, and replacing the treated water with the desalinated water, let's say an example of 1 cubic meter of water you use instead of the potable water, you save 3 kilowatt 3 kilowatt hour. So approximately in a year, you save around 300 gigawatt hours by replacing instead of using the potable water, going for treated water. So this is one. So this circular economy in Abu Dhabi plays towards the Sustainable Development Goal of SDG 6, which United Nations says about availability of water and sanitation for all. And with regards to the energy transition, already in Abu Dhabi, you know that since it's the Middle East, the sun shines most of the month of the year. So here already 30% or 40% of energy has been integrated with renewable energy to the grid. And the target is to integrate 50% of energy with the renewable energy with the grid. And when we talk about the data analytics, how it helps the circular economy. With the data of United Nations and the World Bank, 30% of water, which is treated water, is lost in the distribution network. Okay, and which accounts, let's say, 75% of the greenhouse gas emission. Okay. And when we reduce this 30% and the mitigation plan for this reducing the 30%, measure of this 30% is contributes to the leakage of the water. Okay. And as you know that the production of water in Middle East is very energy intensive. So this is one of the point I want to highlight. With the smart meter data, we find the anomalies, the leakage, where we have a smart meter which identifies the leakage from the trend of the meter consumption. So I think I have answered your question. If anything, if you want me to add, Dr. Atiq.
I think that's fantastic. I think the way you explained in terms of like how technologies like smart meter system can help not only the bringing efficiency in the grid and also the resources that we have, but also improving the circularity. And really, I'm really surprised to hear, not really surprised to hear that 95% water being treated in Abu Dhabi, because the country is so water scarce. So whatever water that you have, I think that's the best policy or strategy that a nation should take. I think I can relate
It
that
is
with
more than, Dr. I just want to add one point, which is more than
yeah,
the
please.
United Kingdom. In United Kingdom, only 80% of water is wastewater is treated, whereas in Abu Dhabi, 95% of water is treated. Just wanted to highlight one point here.
Yeah, no, that's excellent, I think, achievement and also the target that you have. And hopefully, because in terms of circular economy, we would like to retain the value as high as possible. So next time, maybe with like Singapore, like water, drinking water became actually drinking water rather than irrigation, because surely there would be the value depletions there. So that might be the next target. But it's really fascinating to hear from the things that we have. But I will come back with some really interesting insight that I would really like to ask. But I think we need to go like our panel first, and surely if we have time, we'll add more interesting insight what we started from. So lastly, is not least, like let's hear from another part of the world, Costa Rica. So I will go to Dr. Glenn. And I understand, like Mr. Glenn, Dr. Glenn, like you are more into research and development based on your professional expertise. So based on that, like, how can circular economy metrics be tailored to monitor both energy system decarbonizations and ecosystem outcomes in the global South context?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Atika. And well, first of all, hello, everyone. Well, it is a great pleasure to be here. For our Spanish speakers audience, I just want to say muchísimas gracias por estar acá. Es un placer estar aquí con ustedes y poder compartir un poco de mi experiencia sobre la investigación. So, back to English. Yeah, that's a very complex question, of course, Atik, but we can narrow it down to three main points, I would say. The first one that I want to say is that in order to have this tailor-made circular matrix combined with energy transition and ecosystems, first of all, we need to understand the state of the art of the research. So right now, we do have tools that allow us to quantify circularity and inputs as well. Namely material flow analysis, life cycle assessment, integrated assessment models, these kind of tools. Shalini mentioned one of the examples in which you can use those tools that was regarding the material requirement for the energy transition. These kind of reports are made with these kind of tools. So in particular for the Global South and getting into the Latin American experience, we do also have examples of this. So for instance, we have the circularity gap report or the material flows that has been developed during the National Circular Economy Strategy of Uruguay. So what does it mean? We're not starting from zero, all right? The second point, I think that it's important to understand that in order to have these tailor-made metrics, we need to make the difference between one thing is measuring circular economy or circularity of materials, and one thing is measure its impacts, right? So when we're looking into the measuring of circularity, it's usually more the material-oriented approach, right? And how circular is your system. While its inputs, actually, we can cover the dimensions that we have on sustainability, right? We are looking into economic, social, and environmental inputs. It's more or less also related to what Jessica was mentioned about the integration of the different stakeholders that requires in the dialogue. So therefore, the matrix should meet the needs of the stakeholders. The final point is more about data gaps and the so-called blind spots, something that we have discovered together with our team and colleagues across Latin America, is that not all the time it's more about the lack of data as usually is supposed. It's more about the data accessibility, because that's kind of the core aspect or difference between global north and global south. We don't have centralized system in which we can cover the data. So the data might be there, but then it's at the level that we are not able to reach out in order to have the models running. Just to keep it short, all these three aspects, I think that it requires a combination of a dialogue between the stakeholders, because at some point from academia, we're doing things that perhaps are very useful for the stakeholders, but we are not reaching that connection in order to have the tailor-made solution so far. And I think I will stop here for the sake of time, Atik. I don't know if you have any further comments or questions.
Thanks a lot. I think it's you nicely summarized like 3 points, and particularly like for tailor-made one, actually linking with other one, like with circular economy, because it's more into like the material flow, material accounting, and decarbonizations, which is fantastic. This is the first step. But I think what we discussed from the various speakers is like Global South is somewhat victim with the development and also the the global climate, like global warming and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, Global South has least technological capacity as well. So now if you look only the material circularity point of view, I think that was the intention for me, is like to understand, and you nicely put it there. Actually, you need to go beyond material. You need to look into like impact, as you mentioned. So like what are the social impact? Even if you look into solutions, like what are the positive solutions that it provide in terms of environmental, like decarbonizations or material efficiency, which is good. But in terms of like maybe generating economy, or providing community and equitable kind of solutions, because there's a really disproportionate kind of society that we have, and also disproportionate impact that is happening, particularly in Global South. So I think the metrics, the way we are measuring, should capture that, and that was the intention, actually ask those questions. But I'll bring back I think more into those. I think, but that's somewhat captures like the first what is happening in different context. We talk about like the circular economy solutions in different country context, but as well as like how to measure those contexts. So I would like to maybe remind our audience or who are attending this here today, please feel free to ask or put your questions in the chat functions, and we will go back to those questions just in case if you have time. And I can see that our panelist is very mindful of the time, which is really good. As a moderator for me, is like that's a like dream, so that we can actually go more detail some of the questions that we have. But I think that leads me to the second part of the question. So I think this is where, because as I mentioned, like we are bringing 3 different aspects: circularity, resource management or renewable energy transitions, and also how to safeguard biodiversity. So under this theme, I would be asking or requesting 2 experts just to address one particular theme because of the time constraint that we have. But if we have additional, like more time, or I will ask for that, like whether we have more time, then we will maybe deep dive some of the like the discussion that we have. I think that's very interesting initial discussion, but that requires more or further actually discussion or deep dive as well. So in our first theme that I think I kind of planned for is like a circular economy, so circularity in energy infrastructure and resource management. And I would like to invite Mr. Chris and Mr. Shamil to share their views. So I think we discussed that already. The current scaling up energy infrastructure, or the way we actually moving towards energy transitions, is a more linear, is very and also like if you look into the investment point of view, a significant investment happening in renewable sector, more in front end, like how we can move to energy transitions with new infrastructures. But very limited infrastructures have been put forward for management of end-of-life infrastructure and technology. So what are the opportunities for reusing and refurbishing end-of-life batteries or solar panel or energy storage system for second life applications. And can you please share some of the example maybe that is already happening, or you may be already trialing some of those example of reusing end-of-life renewable energy products, for example. So over to Chris and Mr. Shamil, like whoever would like to start.
Sure, maybe I can start there.
Yes.
I think it's critical for us to understand that this problem is going to exacerbate over time. If we look at the current situation with regards to the waste streams that are coming through, we need to realize it's not just end of life in terms of the end of the useful economic life, but we're also seeing that because of differences with regards to new technological interventions and greater efficiencies, that sometimes people don't keep their solar panels for 25 years. They keep them for 10 years and they change into something different. So we need to make sure that infrastructure is there, but we have a unique opportunity in the Global South in that even if the efficiency of that panel is not fantastic, it can have a second life. So first and foremost, let's make sure that we look at a refurbishment and a second life opportunity for that product. There's a lot of people out there who can't afford a brand new solar panel, so I think there's huge social opportunities to look at investing into that. The second thing is really to make sure that the infrastructure is there to collect and process and ensure that the solar panels are properly managed. That comes into also from a circularity perspective, making sure that new editions of solar panels are properly designed for recyclability, that they are separable in terms of their component applications, because there are pretty good systems already available in terms of battery separation, solar panel separation, rare earth metal extraction. So we have to get the logistics right. We need to make sure and understand that this isn't the Netherlands we're talking about. We're talking about India or Latin America or Africa, where we have wide open spaces and logistics is a bit of an issue. So the infrastructure needs to be put into place for the collection and ensure that there's sufficient volume to look at the investment into the appropriate technologies that allow us to extract maximum value locally rather than exporting. We want to try and avoid at all costs exporting solar panels as waste to another country. So I think there's a huge number of opportunities for us to try and put that together.
Thanks a lot for that. Ms. Shamil? Yeah. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Shamil, or you're okay with the answer?
Doctor, is it me, Shamil?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Shamil, also yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Doctor, I'm done with that. I have added the points in the previous.
Okay. No. Okay.
Can
So
I
with
add
that,
one point, Atik? Yeah.
Yes, please.
I just want to add battery second life. It is very important, and also because we have now electric vehicle batteries where life is definitely short, and also you have to, because you want the vehicle to run long distance, so you definitely don't use the batteries too old. So those batteries can also be used for utility scale, particularly for grid services. There are some examples, like in Germany, Mercedes and also Audi, they are doing some experiment of about some megawatt scale of batteries. So essentially what they do, I have seen this year only in January. So what they are doing is they take out the battery bank of the vehicle and then club them together, and then they are using it for grid frequency management. So this is a quite successful experiment, and similar project is also being undertaken in India, in Bengaluru. So they are also very similar approach. So there is a huge possibility and also potential, particularly for electric vehicle batteries for second life. And because the grid frequency management does not require too much of energy, but it requires power for a very short period of time. And so second life battery can be very nicely used for that purposes. Yeah,
Thanks for
that's one.
sharing this example. I think that's really nice to hear that there's a solution that is happening. But because of the time, but I would like to add maybe with Boro and also like with Chris, because there's a discussion that is happening that renewable energy requires the critical minerals, and the critical minerals mainly controlled by global north. And do you see opportunity like when you'd be there's an application for second life application of battery or battery infrastructures or renewable infrastructures, as well as opportunity to actually recycling and recovering those materials or critical minerals by global south? Or do you see this as a problem, like because there's always global south gaps? How do you see that? Like, is it an opportunity, or do you see that as a challenge for actually controlling some of the second or recovered critical minerals in the global market?
All right, Tik, was that directed at me? I'm battling to hear a little bit.
Yes.
That's me.
Yeah.
I think definitely we need to understand that there are opportunities that are there. We have the technologies already to look at either mechanical, hydromechanical, or thermal system extraction and separation. Each is going to be particularly unique in terms of the volume, in terms of the particular product that's going through it. The systems are there, and the systems will get better. So we do have to make sure that we put systems into place that are going to recover, specifically rare earths. We always talk about the easy stuff, which is the copper components and the aluminium frames and the nice juicy bits which everybody wants. But we need to make sure that we have systems in place that are going to look at the glass, your low value fractions, look at extraction of your rare earth metals. And there's also opportunities in terms of us from a critical raw material perspective to ensure and understand that we have systems where we can access rare earth metals in their non-conventional form in terms of primary extraction. So we have opportunities in terms of looking at secondary processes such as slag materials and fly ash materials, where we can extract raw materials and rare earth metals. So we need to be able to look at just being a little bit more sassy in terms of understanding how we get that, how we look at these particular minerals and metals. Geopolitically, this is very important because if you start to look at the global acquisition around rare earth metals, these are things that start wars. So we need to make sure that we look at all the systems and processes to look at urban mining processes, secondary extraction, also looking at tertiary and non-conventional system applications where we can extract rare earth metals. And the solutions are there. We just need to get people to understand that and activate those and ensure that we maximize that use and minimize primary extraction.
Just I wanted to add to Chris. Yes, the recovery or recycling of solar modules technology is now available, and many people are doing it. We visited one that kind of recycler in Bengaluru this year only. Parisara, his name is. They initially started and did some work, but then later they stopped doing it. Economically, they say it is not viable at present, because the cost of getting modules is quite high, because somebody has to take back, maybe transportation cost. And then quantity of precious materials are very, very small. That is one. And energy consumption is very high in terms of recovering those materials. So those are the main challenges they have mentioned. So from that point of view, my opinion is that there should be regulation or some kind of incentives for recycling, either for recyclers, or maybe you make the project developer responsible to dispose the waste material at a certain point, so that the recycler can collect them at a lower cost. So then probably it can be possible to make economically viable, because they started at the factory, but they are not doing it anymore because of the economical reason.
So I think that's really interesting that you bring policy. And I can actually share one of the really interesting policy or the success story in terms of circular economy, like battery recycling, lead acid battery recycling in Bangladesh, for example, where 80% actually battery being recycled within country, and it served the local supply. And one of the policies like high tariff. Because government put high tariff to the import, so that actually it can protect the battery recycling industry. Unfortunately, I would say unintended consequences is most of that because the even lead's price in Bangladesh is higher compared to the international market, like the very high efficient, good quality grade. But Bangladesh would be lower grade, but it would be the price would be more. Because of the policy. The challenges is like most of those recycle happen in informal system and informal recycler, and that cause a huge impact, particularly on health. Lead has his significant impact on health. So I think that brings the safe circularity, like how can we make circular economy even safe? Not only the material and the number that we would like to reuse again and again, but like, is it safe to do so? That's very, very important. So move on to our next theme, which is Boro, please stay because you are the person who would be answering the next theme, as well as Miss Uni. So the next, I would like to actually understand the balancing. I think this is what somewhat we're summarizing, the balancing energy access and also biodiversity hotspots. So from that context, the question is like, how can energy projects be strategically planned and implemented in Global South to avoid or mitigate negative impacts, and critical biodiversity are areas and ensure equitable energy access for all communities.
Uni, you want to come, or I shall?
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I can take this one. I believe this is a very critical questions that needs to be addressed, and I believe in many parts of the Global South, but I can speak especially in Indonesia. Energy development can often overlaps with the areas that are ecologically rich but also socially complex. So, for example, like coastal zones, small islands, or forest edge communities. So when we talk about strategic planning, it's really about understanding the landscape, not just physically, but socially and culturally. So for example, from Indonesia side, if we are planning solar installation in Eastern Indonesia, we cannot just look for empty land on the satellite maps, but that land could be a community sacred space, a food garden, or even a part of the mangrove buffer zone. So if we don't include, for example, the local voices early, we can risk damaging the ecosystem and the relationship with the community there. In one case, in Sulawesi, it's part of Indonesia, a small solar project had to be halted because it was built too close to the turtle nesting area. It is something that the locals could have pointed out if they were involved from the start. Another example, in the cooling and refrigerant sector, instead of replacing thousands of old air conditioners or cold storage units, which can be very expensive and also generate new waste, we can design a program that helps technicians upgrade or even retrofit the system for better energy efficiency. And this is not only save energy, but also prevent harmful refrigerants from leaking into the atmosphere. It is a quieter and more circular way of supporting the energy transition, and it can create local jobs too. And also when it comes to the equitable energy access, the solution doesn't have to be always a big infrastructure, but sometimes it can be about a small smart systems. Because Indonesia has so many islands and remote villages, installing a large grid connection can be very difficult. But when we install a solar powered water pump, for example, or micro grid that is managed by the local community, that is often more sustainable. We've seen in many part of Nusa Tenggara, part of the Indonesian coastal communities, the use of simple solar drying system for fishing, for seaweed cultivation, is actually saving more fuels. It's also increasing shelf life and also increasing more income for the local community. So yeah, the point is in energy planning in Indonesia, it needs to start from the ground up. So yeah, maybe do you have like any feedback, Mr. Dwipen or Dr. Isaac?
Yeah, I appreciate. I think you made a very good point. Community involvement in the projects are very important. But again, I reiterate about the longevity of the project, which is part of the sustainability, and also the if you know, because it is you don't need to reuse, or even you can design or install a system which lasts longer. That itself is a better for the environment, number one. So that requires a kind of planning and all, and good quality equipments, and also a good system, etc. Good maintenance and operational medicine. That saves both money and as well as it also serves the community as well. But as far community engagement is concerned, I have seen very good examples in Bhutan. So Bhutan actually, though it is a kingdom, but they are very supportive to the community. So they will ensure that community have every right to say for developing solar projects. But I have been working with Bhutan for many projects. So their sensitiveness of the community is very high. So they looks after of course, the environment point of view, social point of view equally. So even in terms of animals also. So that is another point, that how do we respect the environment in many countries, including India. We don't need an environmental clearance for solar system. I think that is not very correct, because in at least one case I have seen that for a 5 megawatt project in Longbak, so they have cut 3,000 trees. So definitely that is not encouraging. So I think that we have to be careful about, for the sake of solar or for the sake of renewables, we should not destroy the environment or the ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Given the time constraint, but I was taking the liberty because there's no question, so I was actually going beyond our allocated time a little bit. So, but I'll really finish by our last maybe the questions or session that we are trying to understand with Glenn and Dr. Glenn, so what sort of policy levers, and if you kindly be brief, like what sort of policy levers are most urgent for scaling up circular energy solutions in the Global South?
Yeah, great. Thank you. I think maybe with this one, we can reflect a bit on also Shannon's questions about the role of government. So I can try to combine the both of those, the both of things. Also a bit challenging because Chris already left and he was part of my team, and of course we're going to miss his wisdom, but let's give it a try, all right? Yeah, well, just to answer to Shannon, indeed, I mean, governments are playing a crucial role, especially in the Global South, because of the governance structure that it contains, right? We're talking about more hierarchical governments that actually, and also, well, at least in the case of Latin America, short-term cycles that don't allow to transfer long-term goals. So it's a kind of a combination of short-term governments with very hierarchical systems, and the fact that looking into sustainability and circular economy transitions are long-term aspects, right? So there is a mismatch there. So what kind of levers? And well, if I can rephrase it, I like it to see it as the enabling mechanisms that we can use. Well, with colleagues here in Latin America, we have identified 3 key mechanisms that are needed for the acceleration of this circular and energy transition. Not surprising, we're talking about policy regulations, we're talking about data monitoring, and the financial instruments. This might be the 3 key. Also on the top of the ones that Dwipen already mentioned. So what is the context, especially with Latin America? And we can take it as an example for the Global South. For policy and regulation, we notice that there is a lack of recognition from vulnerable groups that are very relevant to circular strategies. So this is more or less what Stephanie was saying also about what are the vulnerable groups here. For instance, in Latin America, we have 60% of the workforce is coming from the informal economy that usually is not within the circular economy plans, neither the energy transition plans. And also the small and medium-sized enterprises that also Chris mentioned. In Latin America, we're talking about over 90% of the global economy here. So these are crucial things that are enablers that can be used within policy regulation. Regarding data and monitoring, I would like to come back to something that I
Dr. Glenn, I will just request to keep it short. We have other speakers waiting. We have 2 more speakers. If we can wrap this up quickly, Dr. Atik.
Okay, sorry. Great. I'm going to do my best. So data monitoring,
definitely.
So data monitoring is related to what I mentioned about the data blind spots, right? And as Atik mentioned, I would say that it's not even the lack of infrastructure, but it's a lack of an integrated system that actually allows us to have this data monitoring. Just very briefly with financial instruments, this is not even about the lack of funding, because in many Latin American countries, you will see circular funding, also funding for climate change actions. But there is a lack of taxonomy between those ones who are bringing the funding and those ones who are able to receive it. So that's kind of the 3 key points that I would like to add. I want to leave on the comments my details, so that if you want to elaborate more, we can do it later on.
Yeah, I think thanks a lot to offering there's a continuation of this discussion, because this discussion requires additional maybe dialogues and brainstorming as well. So with that, I would really like to thank all our speakers, especially to bringing their really informative insights into this. And also I really like to thank International Council for Circular Economy and also Interamerican Association for Environmental Defense for organizing these sessions, and World Circular Economy Forum for hosting or enabling these discussions. So it was an honor to actually be the moderator. So thanks a lot.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Atik, and all the panelists. So now, keeping the interest of time in mind, I would quickly invite Ms. Paulina Gonzalez. She is the legal advisor at Fundación Tanti. Paulina has been actively involved in rural development processes and legal empowerment for indigenous communities. She advises various non-governmental and civil society organizations. Over to you, Paulina. Please.
Muchas gracias, Surabi. Es un gusto para mí estar con ustedes. Voy a compartir una presentación. Me avisan si se ve como corresponde. Creo que no. No es mi presentación.
Está cargando. Ahora ya no.
¿Sí?
Estaba cargando.
Dame un momento. Así. ¿Ahora sí?
Sí, ya se ve.
Bien, muy rápidamente, ya que debo justamente ir hacia el trabajo territorial que nos caracteriza. Es un placer para mí estar aquí junto a todos ustedes compartiendo este espacio de amplitud del sur global. Hemos decidido como organización venir a conversar a este espacio en nuestro idioma nativo, no es algo casual, para representar y traer esta información acerca de las perspectivas locales indígenas. Según se lee en la presentación, que está titulada Impulsando una transición energética desde la perspectiva de las comunidades indígenas y locales, y cuáles son los riesgos de la extracción lineal. Bueno, para comenzar, hablar muy rápidamente en un contexto de nuestro trabajo como fundación territorial. Nosotros estamos ubicados en la cuenca del Salar de Atacama. Habitamos el mismo espacio junto a comunidades indígenas que ancestralmente han existido aquí. Me refiero principalmente a los atacameños o licanantais. Y solo mencionar muy brevemente que somos una organización que promueve la educación ambiental intercultural, la conservación de prácticas tradicionales y el desarrollo de la investigación bajo metodologías participativas. Generamos distintas investigaciones, publicaciones con las comunidades y desde las comunidades. Y estamos viendo algunos de los últimos informes o publicaciones que hemos tenido, cuyos títulos son, por ejemplo, Zonas de sacrificio verde en Chile, Electromovilidad europea y minería de litio en Chile, Transición o extractivismo verde, Historia de pastores y pastoras de la Puna de Atacama, una investigación muy propia del tema del que voy a hablar, que son las prácticas locales productivas que se dan en el territorio. Otro informe titulado Desafíos de la transición justa en el norte de Chile. Como pueden ver, el tema que nos convoca es totalmente de nuestra investigación e interés. Bien, ahora me voy a referir a la práctica local principal productiva que se da, que es el turismo indígena. En oposición, este turismo indígena local al turismo privado o de la gran industria hotelera que también se da en este territorio, que es muy rico en distintos lugares con gran interés o gran potencial para el ecoturismo. Estas actividades turísticas se dan de forma auténtica, sustentable y significativa, bajo dinámicas de economía circular. Ponen en valor el patrimonio local indígena licanantay atacameño, y esto se hace a través de experiencias que vinculan lo vivencial con la gastronomía, la astronomía atacameña, lo contemplativo y lo paisajístico. Por lo tanto, es muy importante para estas prácticas productivas locales la subsistencia del valor patrimonial, arqueológico e incluso paisajístico del territorio. Podemos ver en una imagen uno de los tantos lugares a quienes reciben a muchos turistas de todo el mundo. Esa es la laguna Tebenquinche, administrada por una comunidad indígena llamada Coyo, la comunidad Oayú de Coyo, comunidad atacameña. Otras prácticas locales productivas son el pastoreo y la ganadería. Aquí se da un uso ecológico de los ecosistemas, variando estacionalmente la actividad de acuerdo a la disponibilidad de los recursos y bajo un enfoque de profunda armonía y respeto por ellos. Además del pastoreo y la ganadería, que es una actividad muy importante, también se da la agricultura ancestral, caracterizada por el uso de diferentes pisos ecológicos que comprenden los salares y toda la ecorregión de la Puna de Atacama. Prácticas como la siembra, el regadío y el cultivo de ciertos productos colabora con la salud del propio ecosistema y los ciclos de la biota que se emplazan ahí. Otra práctica local importante es la medicina ancestral, mediante el uso de elementos naturales que se encuentran en el territorio y sus especies, como por ejemplo la recolección de ciertas hierbas de altura, como el bailagüén, la cachacoma o el pingo, y también mediante la adquisición de grasa de parina, por ejemplo, usada para distintas dolencias como hernias. Otra actividad productiva local muy relevante, más bien asociado a los usos y costumbres rituales, son los pagos a la tierra o pagos al agua, denominados así, los cuales las comunidades indígenas los realizan internándose en los salares y en los nacimientos de agua que tributan a estos salares a través de distintos volcanes que se habitan en este territorio. Los pagos a la tierra y pagos al agua también implican la recolección de plumas de parina o flamencos, por ejemplo, que tienen una significancia cultural, espiritual muy relevante. Estas son las principales prácticas locales. Como he indicado, el turismo indígena es una actividad muy potente junto con el pastoreo, la agricultura, la medicina local y los usos ritualísticos. Sin embargo, también no quisiera dejar de mencionar otras prácticas como la artesanía de sal a pequeña escala o la artesanía asociada a distintas especies de cactus y otras que se encuentran en el territorio. Aquí, por ejemplo, estamos visualizando a una de mis compañeros de equipo. Ella es antropóloga, está justamente intercambiando experiencias de un informe al cual hice referencia anteriormente, asociado a la actividad de pastores y pastoras de la alta puna de esta región. Es muy importante para nuestro equipo y para nuestro trabajo como fundación establecer publicaciones o información para el territorio. Nuestro trabajo está focalizado, nuestro público son las propias comunidades indígenas y rurales que se ubican allí. Otra foto asociada al sector El Bajo, denominado de la comunidad de Talabre. Allí pueden ver una práctica en acción de pastoreo. Si se fijan, algunas de las especies camélidas que están observando tienen algunos distintivos de colores. Eso también tiene un significado bajo una práctica denominada floreo, de la cual pueden investigar bajo los recursos de nuestro propio sitio web o tal vez ya han escuchado acerca de estas prácticas. Finalmente quisiera referirme en oposición a lo que realmente he venido a mostrar y exponer, son justamente las prácticas de economía vertical y los riesgos que esta supone, con los cuales nosotros y nosotras convivimos y los observamos al estar emplazados en el mismo territorio como organización socioambiental. Y algunos de los riesgos, la verdad, más que riesgos, es una amenaza latente que hemos podido observar y sistematizar en nuestro trabajo investigativo son, por ejemplo, las afectaciones a la calidad y cantidad de acceso a los recursos naturales para los pastores y el libre tránsito por lugares ocupados ancestralmente para acceder a estas prácticas de pastoreo, lugares que actualmente se encuentran muy intervenidos debido a los vecinos de la industria de la minería y otros subcontratados, lo cual genera un impacto importante en el tránsito de caminos, estructura, transporte, camiones, entre otros. Una segunda afectación que hemos identificado es en la calidad del suelo, de la tierra y por supuesto del agua. Cultivos contaminados y disminución de los caudales para riego es una situación lamentablemente cada vez más habitual y muy intensificada actualmente. Otra cuestión que hemos identificado es la reducción de la disponibilidad de vegetación y hierbas e incluso la desaparición de algunas especies. Podemos aquí destacar, por ejemplo, el disecamiento de algarrobos, que es una planta ancestral y medicinal que ha sido profundamente afectada por la minería del litio, por operaciones de SQM, por ejemplo, lo cual incluso ha sido establecido en distintos procesos formales, administrativos y judiciales de mi país. Otra afectación importante es la reducción en la cantidad de parinas, especies flamencos, que tienen una vital importancia, como ya he referido, en la recolección de su grasa para la medicina, en la recolección de plumas para actividades ceremoniales e incluso para la pequeña alimentación a escala de comunidades, quienes también practicaban la recolección de huevos. Obviamente hay una importante afectación en los nacimientos de agua que ya están secos en muchas ocasiones y en otros mejores casos actualmente tienen muy poca cantidad de la disposición del recurso hídrico para la realización de actividades como pagos ceremoniales. Allí podemos ver una imagen y también les invito a revisar nuestros informes. Este es uno del año 2024, titulado en forma de pregunta: zonas de sacrificio verde en los territorios y ecosistemas andinos y costeros de la región de Antofagasta, en el cual van a encontrar ampliamente toda esta problemática desarrollada. Finalmente, solo quisiera cerrar esta presentación señalando que es muy importante que esta perspectiva local, comunitaria y los impactos de la agenda de la transición energética, que es global, debe saber que afecta directamente bajo el riesgo de amenazar y desaparecer estas prácticas de economía circular, comunitaria, local. Por lo tanto, es muy relevante que esta realidad sea conocida por el mundo entero a fin de que las políticas públicas y las agendas tengan en consideración la supervivencia cultural de estas distintas realidades. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Paulina. Now we have with us Antonio. Antonio, I would request you to keep it short. And Antonio is joining us from Chile. Again, Mr. Antonio Colgar, he is the studies coordinator at FEMA. He is a lawyer from the University of Chile and has been working with FEMA, focusing on the analysis of public policies in the Chilean mining industry, environmental conflicts, human rights, and environmental defense. Antonio, over to you, please.
Thank you, Surabi. Hi, everyone in the different time zones. I'm very excited to be here to share with you some of the thoughts that we have been developing about this issue. And for reasons of commodity and fluidity, I will do my presentation in Spanish, in my native language, so you can select this channel to the translate. I will share to you some a brief presentation about this topic. So let's go. Lo primero que quisiera compartir con ustedes es una primera encuadre o reflexión, ¿no? Si bien mi desarrollo profesional y teórico dice relación más bien con cuestiones del derecho, tal como fue señalado por Jessica al inicio de este panel, todas estas cuestiones a las que nos estamos refiriendo redundan en una discusión sobre justicia, ¿no? Y a propósito de los discursos y narrativas imperantes que han intervenido en estas discusiones sobre justicia, es que se generan cruces muy interesantes para poder observar cuáles son los efectos de la intervención de políticas públicas en conflictos socioecológicos y cómo esto genera la potencialidad o no de coexistencia entre estrategias industriales y no industriales, o, por contrario, el aumento de la conflictividad socioecológica, ¿no? Entonces, yo en esta presentación les voy a compartir 4 ideas bien sumariadas, bien concisas, respecto de cuál es el sistema de valores convencionales que se utiliza y cómo eso ha generado una exclusión constante de los valores socioecológicos, cómo esta discusión se enlaza con la transición energética, cuáles han sido las respuestas de política pública en Chile y particularmente observando el caso de los minerales críticos y de la industria del hidrógeno, y cómo esto puede ir generando conflictos socioambientales en escala nacional y si es que esto no mantiene o modifica la dinámica de exclusión de un sistema más complejo de valores. En ese sentido, es necesario señalar que los sistemas sociales, económicos y jurídicos de carácter hegemónico han incorporado una visión lineal de la economía, alineada o suministrada por una visión instrumental de la naturaleza. Y eso ha generado que surjan discursos y narrativas críticas de esta materia, particularmente enfocadas en las narrativas de la justicia ambiental, de la justicia ecológica y la justicia climática, para poder hablar y poner en la mesa las consecuencias que tiene este modelo económico, ¿no? Y eso nos ha permitido poder concentrar el análisis en las dimensiones de distribución de los costos ambientales y las consecuencias que ha ido generando esta economía globalizada, ¿no? En ese sentido, es necesario analizar cómo las narrativas de economía circular o los modelos de economía circular que han abordado la conflictividad que deriva de estas industrias han logrado o no incorporar este sistema complejo de valores, ¿no? Y si es que incorporan en tal sentido las dinámicas propias de los sistemas sociales y los sistemas ecológicos donde se implementan o desarrollan actividades industriales económicas. Y en ese sentido, entonces, hay que tener mucho cuidado de que los discursos de economía circular solo sean utilizados para tecnificar y legitimar los modelos económicos convencionales, más que enriquecer la discusión y dar cuenta de la realidad del sur global en términos generales, basado en conocimientos situados. En tal sentido, esta discusión en efecto se concentra o se genera en el contexto de la transición energética, que si bien implica una transformación de la matriz energética del norte global, también considera a economías industrializadas como particularmente de Asia. Y eso ha ido generando una presión hacia los territorios del sur global para poder constituirse como proveedores confiables de estas materias primas y particularmente de los minerales críticos, ¿no? Que se concentran justamente en ciertos territorios del sur global y que han ido generando una revitalización de un sistema convencional de distribución de costos a nivel global, ¿no? En ese sentido, en los países de la Puna de Atacama, particularmente Bolivia, Argentina y Chile, se concentra lo que se ha denominado el Triángulo del Litio, o lo que nosotros llamamos la bioregión de la Puna de Atacama, en donde existe una alta concentración, por ejemplo, de minerales como el litio, ¿no? Y que eso ha ido generando una narrativa de una transición energética para la transformación de la matriz del norte global, para la intensificación de la producción de autos eléctricos, pero también de otras necesidades como lo son la industria armamentística del norte global. En ese sentido, entonces, la discusión o la forma de análisis que se ha ido desarrollando para el crecimiento y la intensificación de esta demanda ha implicado un análisis convencional de valores económicos, ¿no? Este mapa, por ejemplo, nos permite observar cómo se pretende o cómo se analiza la posibilidad de generar sistemas energéticos basados en generación fotovoltaica o eólica en base únicamente al costo de generación. Y no se considera, en caso alguno, la posibilidad de integrar otros tipos de valores o costos que la generación de estas industrias podría generar, ¿no? Lo mismo pasa con los procesos de extracción mineros, ¿no? Que generan un aumento de los riesgos hídricos, un aumento de la conflictividad socioambiental y un aumento de la inseguridad alimentaria en relación a responder a la demanda global y poder posicionarnos como proveedores confiables de estas materias. En tal sentido, las respuestas de política pública que se han dado desde los estados de la región dan cuenta de procesos de industrialización proyectados, ¿no? Y estos procesos de industrialización, como ya lo habíamos señalado, pueden generar o pueden por una parte, relegitimar las viejas estrategias convencionales económicas o podrían incorporar estos nuevos sistemas de valores, incorporar elementos de los que nos comentaba Paulina en su presentación, que son los propios sistemas de vida y los propios sistemas de economía de escala local de estos territorios. En tal sentido, si la pregunta que están respondiendo estas estrategias que responden también a posicionamientos convencionales, tanto del hidrógeno verde como la Estrategia Nacional del Litio en el caso de Chile y la Estrategia de Minerales Críticos que también se encuentra en desarrollo, la pregunta es, ¿para quién queremos ser proveedores confiables, ¿no? Esto particularmente porque nos encontramos en un contexto geopolítico en donde estamos transitando desde una economía globalizada a un escenario multipolar. Y en ese sentido, entonces, tenemos, por ejemplo, que la Estrategia Nacional del Litio tendrá como consecuencia que vamos a pasar, en el caso de Chile, de un salar, un salar en operaciones de explotación a más de 27, ¿no? Y si bien se establece la posibilidad de generar una red de salares protegidos bajo áreas de protección oficial, en ninguno de estos se está generando una perspectiva de cuenca, considerando que los salares son cuencas endorreicas y que por ende son cuencas que no llegan al mar, pero que dependen todo su funcionamiento de el sistema hidrogeológico, cuestión que a la hora de hablar de la estrategia del litio o la estrategia de extracción de minerales no se tiene en consideración. Un ejemplo de esto, de las materias que hemos ido observando, es la discusión de la generación de dos proyectos de explotación de litio en el salar, en la región de Antofagasta, en el salar de Ollagüe y en el salar de Ascotán, en donde nos encontramos no solo acuíferos protegidos, no solo zonas de interés antropológico o ecológico, como son sitios de nidificación y reproducción de las 3 especies de flamencos que se encuentran en peligro de extinción, sino que además un problema con los procesos de explotación que ya se encuentran incorporados en esos territorios y que pueden generar efectos acumulativos y sinérgicos claros en los sistemas de vida de las comunidades altoandinas. Una situación muy similar se genera con la estrategia del hidrógeno verde, ¿no? En donde se pretende generar 3 o 4 núcleos industrializados en el país por medio de la transformación de ciertas centrales termoeléctricas o por el desarrollo de nuevos enclaves industriales que van a servir principalmente para la exportación de esta materia prima. Y de tal manera entonces observamos que la estrategia de industrialización dice relación más bien con el desarrollo de economías de enclave y de un proceso de renovación de los commodities, ¿no? Manteniendo intacta nuestra posición en el sistema económico global. Y esta es una imagen, por ejemplo, de la región de Magallanes, del futuro de implementación de proyectos de hidrógeno verde, ¿no? Vale señalar además que respecto de la teoría de valores que no se han ido incorporando, hay uno que es muy importante y que dice relación también con el hidrógeno y con el litio, que son las funciones ecosistémicas, ¿no? Dentro de estos territorios nos encontramos con ecosistemas que son relevantes y muy importantes para la contribución de la crisis climática, ¿no? La región de Magallanes en Chile es la única región que al día de hoy es una región carbono neutral y que depende única y exclusivamente de la captura de carbono que hacen las turberas y los bosques de macroalgas que se encuentran justamente en esta región. Pero nos señalan que el desarrollo de este proceso industrial para la transición energética global y por ende para poner a disposición de la transición mundial estos territorios, dicen relación con razones de justicia. Pero vemos entonces que en términos de justicia climática no existe una discusión absolutamente relativa a cómo se van a distribuir los costos de la transición global y quiénes van a asumir estas discusiones. En tal sentido, entonces, y para ir cerrando y mantenerme estricto en el tiempo, quisiera compartirles algunas reflexiones finales. Lo primero es que existen desafíos complejos para poder incorporar estas nuevas dimensiones que dicen relación con valores intrínsecos de la naturaleza o que dicen relación específicamente con las funciones ecosistémicas en los procesos de toma de decisión, ¿no? Y particularmente este proceso de distribución en la toma de decisiones efectivamente dice relación con una discusión sobre justicia, ¿no? En algunos casos justicia dentro de los términos humanos, pero también en otras narrativas de justicia ecológica respecto de seres no humanos, ¿no? Que estarían asumiendo los costos y que dice relación con la extinción o la posibilidad de extinción de especies, de biodiversidad o de ecosistemas de altura, ¿no? En tal sentido, la discusión de estimación de los costos está replicando consideraciones hegemónicas, ¿no? Y dejando afuera cuáles van a ser los costos respecto de la consideración ecológica, pero también epistémica de estos territorios y, por así decirlo, una falta de equilibrio y consideración de este sistema más complejo de valores y de un sistema mucho más complejo de economías de escala y de sistemas de vida. En tal sentido, en estos socioecosistemas estamos observando que siguen primando modelos económicos convencionales que deben responder a la transición energética y respecto del cual aspectos de economía circular bien implementados y bien reflexionados podrían ser un aporte bastante importante para los territorios en donde se está situando esta transición. Así que muchas gracias por su atención y estaré muy atento a los comentarios y consultas que puedan haber.
Thank you. Thanks, Antonio, for the wonderful presentation. I think that brings about all the points that these indigenous committees are asking now because of this energy transition, which is leading to mindless extractivism. So now I would invite Ms. Shalini Bhalla to finally conclude the session, and please.
Thank you, Surabhi. It has been a good 2.5 hours of discussion with various experts, and I'm glad to see that the regions of Global South are very actively participating and considering shaping up a global circular economy that not only reflects the global vision, but the visions which are very specific to the regional specificities. This actually calls for a realignment of not only the incentives and financial mechanisms, which are both public and private, to accelerate transition looking at the extractive economies. What I also realize is through the moderator session that the development of specific circularity indicators when it comes to the mining zones aim at measuring the local impacts beyond the boundaries of mining concessions. This also means going beyond the traditional indicators such as employment generation, GDP, which is an important consideration, and also instead include incorporating the indicators that also reflect very important topics like resilience in the ecosystem, biodiversity presence and change, quality of life, and most important thing is the shift in the local economic activities. The territorial planning beyond the scale of individual mining concessions through the study that we are going to kind of release and monitor of the cumulative and synergistic impacts is needed by strengthening and tracking and understanding the biophysical environment. Keeping it short, what I suggest and my takeaways from today's discussion is that a proposal from the Global South is needed to address the complexity of three main difficulties that need to be addressed by any economic policy framework. First is the limitation of the current circular economy that do not consider biodiversity projection and biophysical limits of highly vulnerable ecosystems like the emerging economies. Second, the inequalities of capacities to transition from linear, the extractive model of economy, to the circular, sustainable economy. And thus we need to find equality and the capacities to kind of train them. Third is the dangers of the global agenda that promotes an energy transition that does not respect or take into account the local economic trajectories that are not necessarily industrial, but maybe based more on the local socio-environmental fabric. With this, I think we really look forward to the final paper, and we'll be more than happy to share the paper and the presentations with everyone here, with the view that we will be able to contribute to the local economies by considering decentralization and the methods that are more suitable to the decentralized economies, emerging economies, considering our own problems and local issues, while we still create a global impact. Thank you so much for joining us for this session, and over to you, Surbi.
Thanks a lot, Shalini. So we have come out with some outcomes here. The key takeaways mentioned by Shalini, I think everybody agrees with these takeaways. That definitely we look forward to some action now, a policy recommendation as we are working upon with AIDA. We are looking forward to it. We'll be soon coming out with this report. So with this, we are ending this today's session, and I thank each one of you who is present today and been listening to our whole session. Thanks a lot for your participation and your insights. And I would request, we are hosting another session tomorrow on circular innovations, in which we request all the, organizations, those who are maybe working on ground and working with some new and novel technologies or creating something new. We are promoting these kind of innovations through our initiative, which is I Am Circular. So I would request you, if you can take out some time tomorrow, do join our session. Princey, can you please put on the link of registration in the chat, so that if anybody wants to join tomorrow's session, they can, join us with this link. So with this, we are coming to an end, and thanks everyone again for this wonderful session. And we are looking forward to more collaborations. If you want to get in touch with us, you can write on info@icce.com and keep following us on our LinkedIn page. We are very active there. I have already shared the link there. Thanks a lot. Have a great evening or the day ahead, whichever time zone you are in. Thanks a lot. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye. Thank you.